unless everybody here has received our notice.
So moved? All in favor?
Second.
Aye. Okay. All right, now we have reports of officers. We've got a quickie here.
You want me to do Tom?
Yeah, let's do Tom real fast.
Tom, our treasurer, is unable to be here today, so I will read his update regarding our year-end financials. Watson's bookkeeper, her name's Jamie, and Tom are still in the process of finalizing our year-end 2024 financial statements, but we have determined that we will, at the end of the year, have a cash total of $1,333,553.86, which includes a reserve total of $1,332,137.78. We will end the year with a positive net income. Again, Tom asks that anyone who is comfortable in doing so to pay their condo fees as far in advance as possible. This will help us pay the insurance bill, which will be due the 1st of March. And respectfully, from Tom Edwards, our treasurer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the
Treasurer's report, second.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we've got that. Any questions on the treasurer report, guys? Tom's done an outstanding job this year, as always. Just want to thank him for his efforts in making sure that we so make sure you see Tom telling everybody clap. Okay. Any other officer reports? Okay. So we're going to do the waiver of election of candidates. There was one vacancy for the board of directors. Who's leaving?
Me.
What the hell?
I was vacancy before these, like,
Well, it's okay. So,
there were only 4.
all right, we do thank you for your outstanding contribution. We get copies of contracts a lot, and I'm not somebody who's really good on contracts, and he's outstanding on contracts. Every time we get a contract, we send it to him and say, please, proofread this for us and keep us on the straight and narrow. Can you still do that?
Yes.
So, okay.
The question is, will I?
Well, yay!
I asked him if he would, he said yes. No, it's not.
Yeah, he said he can do it, and now he's said he will do it. Okay, good. All right, so Enid Nieves, is she here?
She can't be here today. She was going to try to join Zoom, but she was going to have limited reception where she is.
Okay.
I don't see her on the Zoom.
All right, so Enid has applied for the position, and as there are no other candidates, we're going to allow her to become one of us. And we also had an opening, and do we have one other candidate for that one?
The opening will be appointed by the board of directors at our organizational meeting following the annual meeting.
Okay, do we have any idea who that's going to be?
I believe Larry.
Oh, no.
Not at all.
Seriously?
There's my top secret, Larry.
All right.
Round 2.
He's a wisp of what he was a month ago, I tell you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have no problem.
All right, so we're not having an election. Oh, gosh darn.
And the reading of the minutes, it's my 2 favorite things.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, so our part of it is just about done. So now we move along to the portion you guys all came for, and that is the members meeting. So can I have a raise of hand for somebody to run that for us? No, you're the master at arms.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you got to make sure everybody sees it. Keith, would you like to do that for us?
Be an honor.
All right. So Keith is, please. All right, you gotta make sure Keith
Stays on plan.
stays on plan. All
Okay.
right.
I do too.
She's our master at arms for this.
I didn't realize I signed up for such a big job.
Oh yeah. When you offered, you absolutely. She's got it.
Okay, each member, this is a members meeting. So I'm not gonna answer any questions, I'm just gonna run the meeting. Your questions are directed to the board of directors. You have 3 minutes per question. Please honor other people, don't interrupt or whatever. You'll have your turn. Come up to the mic. Can I deviate that? If they have an easy question, can I repeat it so the Zoomers could hear? Is that good for everybody? Yes. Okay. I tried to do that last meeting. So, members meeting, your questions, your whatever, have at it. And bear with me, you know, I'll scan the room and I'll try to get you in order, but everybody will get a chance. We have till 5 o'clock tonight, the rules are.
Please, Keith. You might.
Who's first?
3 minutes and how many?
Okay, great. I make a motion we conclude.
Good job, Keith.
Anybody have a question, concern?
Sure, I'll take a question.
Sure.
Dean, this one.
Thank you. My name is Lindsay Lugo. I'm in 14101. We discussed the roofing and the roofing contract, and there was a question as to availability of the Premier extended warranty that was going to be offered by the roofing company, the extended gold manufacturer's warranty. Have we heard any other information about that, the cost associated? Have we chosen to take that extended warranty to increase our 7-year manufacturer warranty into 15 years?
As of yet, no. Unfortunately, that meeting was set for Thursday and I was unable to attend. It's rescheduled now for Monday.
Still pursuing.
Still pending.
Thank you.
John Corda?
I just, since we're in an open thing, I hear rumors, sorry.
I've been hearing some rumors, and so if Eric, could you clarify the status of the claim, insurance claim? Because people are already saying that it's already been awarded, and you know, you and I talked. If you wouldn't mind, why don't you explain what's going on?
We did have,
Use the mic. Oh.
Well, in theory, we have
this should be picking it up. We tested it.
Zoomers, give me a thumbs up if you can hear Eric speaking.
Speak.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
We can't hear. Okay. We had a audio conference with our attorney yesterday. The deposition phase is still going. It was brought to my attention that in the last 3 that occurred, they all landed in our favor. It's going along very quickly. We're hoping to get the last of the depositions done from the corporate representatives of both insurance companies, as well as Citizens head rep by the 26th. And basically my last deposition hopefully will tie it up on the 28th. But it's our attorney's opinion that things are going very favorably for us towards increasing the settlement we were offered. So it's going as well as it could be considered, and we're approximately 2 years ahead of schedule. But that effect really is not consequential for the project of doing the roofs themselves. We were required to do them anyway. We only found that out through our broker maybe 8 weeks ago, what have you, when we got that cancellation notice. But they are not, one does not affect the other. They run simultaneous, but they are not, one is not contingent on the other. So what we're looking for is to get as much as we can delivered from that case to be added back to our reserves moving forward. But so far, we're in a positive place in terms of what they'd offer. And that's the report I got from the attorney yesterday.
We have a Zoom question.
Steve Quinlan.
Steve?
Ask him to unmute himself.
Steve? There you go.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So at the December 19th, 2024 Board of Directors meeting, concrete restoration was on the agenda. At that time, you indicated that the River Club had received several bids and was waiting on one additional bid in order to award the contract. And then it will be taken up at this meeting, and the contract would be awarded at this time. So I'm checking on what the status is of that. Thank you.
Okay, the status is we've received all the bids, but Chris is right here. I spoke with him the other day about it. We have not reviewed all 4 bids yet, but we're gonna try and get to that this week. There is no pressing time frame on that because that work can't start until after the roofs are done, so we still have several months. So we'd rather have our resident expert scrutinize those contracts and get us the best contractor and the best deal for our buck. So as opposed to rushing it, we're going to take some more time and review the 4 that we have.
Just to add
So
to
what's
that.
the new timeline?
Hold on, Chris wanted to add something first?
No, as far as the evaluation of what they call the bids, we didn't put out a specification. So what we're getting back are not bids. Each company is providing a proposal, and in it is the work scope that they feel needs to be done. And it makes it extremely difficult to compare the proposals apples to apples. It takes a lot of work and a lot of phone calls, as opposed to getting pricing from a bid sheet where it's easy to just add up the numbers. So it's going to take a little while to evaluate the proposals.
So that being your next question, what is the timeline? We're hoping to complete it within several weeks, but again, there's no hurry. We're probably not looking to start until March, maybe late March. Just the process of getting your permits and applications completed takes approximately 6 weeks. So it's not something that needs to happen right away. We are working on it diligently, but as you know, we still are trying to put together roofing stuff and get that job ironed out and then implemented. And we'll, at the same time, be getting the contracts done for the spalling work. But the roofs will be done first, then we'll start with the spalling.
Good morning, Maureen. It's your turn. Unmute.
Good morning. So I just have one question I'd like to ask, and that is that I know they were asking people to front load or pay ahead to help out with finances at the River Club. I guess my question to you is, what have we been doing to move forward with the people who have not been paying their HOAs/assessments?
Watson follows the collections process in place in our documents and also the Florida statutes. So that involves a series of late notice letters, and then it gets turned over to our association attorney for further collections actions, which can include eventual putting a lien on the home and foreclosure on the condo if it is not paid.
So where are we at then with this?
Well, every owner is at a different place depending on how late that they are, but we follow the timeline that's outlined. So it's, different letters, whether they're 30, 60, or 90 days late.
Okay, and how many people right now are, have not paid their HOAs/assessments? I know there's a combination of some paid assessments and paid HOAs.
I do not have our accounts receivable report with me today, but we can follow up and get you more detailed information on that. Yeah, just shoot us an email and we can respond to it from there with detailed info.
All right, thank you.
John Corda.
I just want to respond back to Ashley. Will a finance committee be able to suggest to the board and to Watson a procedure to collect? Because if people don't get their their wind mitigation done by fall, then we have a problem because we will not get discounts, and it's huge money. And one person just denying or saying they don't want to do get the wind mitigation, that will ding the whole building, and that would not be very good. So will the finance committee be able to recommend that letter get sent out and consequences prior to a year or whatever. We need to nail on people to get compliance, but also to pay up. Because if they're ignoring it and they're not calling the board and they're not emailing you, Ashley, to make arrangements to say, look, I can't afford the payment, can we make an arrangement? See, that's not happening according to, the last reports that were coming out. They're just ignoring paying. So can the finance committee help you push that along? And we not look at a boilerplate that 718 says we can't do it for 8 months or a year until we do a lien. It affects all of us.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we have to comply with what our declaration and our statutes provide for. Yeah, we can't decide that we're gonna shorten those timelines or change the notifications. They are very specific, the timelines and the language that needs to be contained in those letters.
So of course, I have one more thing. I'm hoping it won't be forevermore, but
I just think it was important, sorry Eric to put you on the spot, but rumors fly around here and all that, and a lot of people know we need to get the roofs done. You can report that, but I believe that there's a contract signed, permits have been issued or whatever, and we're ready to rock and roll. There have been people calling, asking me questions. If we're doing 11 buildings at once, and we had a little bit of a conversation too, but will there be a communication plan to say this contract is going to start with 1 through 5, so expect to move your car and all that? And do you have a timeline for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Larry and I met last week with the operational job foremen, the guys who actually performed the work. Unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't attend the meeting Thursday due to personal condition, but we rescheduled for Monday, and I'm going to meet with the engineers. And we're going to lay out a specific plan, and we have made a change. The original plan was to go building by building, which would make it more convenient, but it would stretch the project out probably a month more. Because there are several different aspects of applying the roof, you have the rip section, then you have the carpenters who do the plywood, then you have the layover guys, then you have the nailer guys who are the boom, boom, boom. We're all used to hearing that tick, tick, tick sound. Each one of those are kind of a particular profession, although they do overlap. And in addition to that, you have the gutters that need to be done.
And inspectors.
And inspectors in between. So we are coordinating all of that, starting from the bottom up. Larry and I met with the crew chiefs. We actually identified a couple of additional problems I should make you aware of while doing that preliminary inspection. You have 52 skylights, which are not technically part of your roof, but while we're there, we decided to inspect them and see how they were. 13 of them need replacement. So that was one of the reasons Thursday did not become so important, because I don't have that pricing information. We're looking at that in 2 fashions. One is a wholesale purchase to replace all 52, and the other one would be to get an estimated time of longevity on the 49 that do not need to be replaced right now. So there's some evaluation work going on.
And concrete restoration in phase 1s.
Well, the concrete
That's the other thing.
restoration we're going to handle as a separate issue.
Oh, okay.
Because the permitting process is completely different. There's other restrictions that go along with that. And that's why I was trying to say earlier, we want to let one kind of sit, and we'll give Chris a chance to evaluate the restoration contracts. Well, I concentrate my attention on getting a structured developmental plan for putting these roofs in as quickly as possible. Because although we have a contract, and I understand it was agreed by citizens to pick our policy back up, we still want to complete that as soon as possible, get those permits closed before we open another set, because there's a notice of commencement which is necessary for the county for these major projects, and you really don't want them overlapping. It causes a lot of bureaucratic static that we don't need to do, and we're better off doing it in an organized fashion, as expedient as possible. But leading to your question, it is a bit more of a pain in the tush for the folks who live here, because we may need to be slightly more responsive. Whereas Larry and I were discussing it the other day, let's say we start on the waterfront. Well, everybody on the waterfront's going to have to park on the other side of the parking lot or in this one. But that'll to be determined how we can segment it depending on the amount of men we can get from each craft at the same time. You can't just tear 10 buildings and then catch up, because there's a weather threat, there's all kinds of issues with that. And some of it you have to understand also depends on what you find. When you tear a roof off, one may have 4 sheets of bad plywood, the other one might have 14. So the carpenter's time gets adjusted. So it's gonna be a job in flux that takes constant supervision. But fortunately, Larry and I are familiar with doing those, as well as Chris has been a major project guy. So we're formulating a plan right now, then we're gonna run it by Chris and Tony, get their opinions, and we're gonna make it as convenient as possible for everybody. But you gotta realize, this kinda got sprung on us the last minute. We didn't expect to get a cancellation that said you need to do 11 buildings in 3 months. So we're handling it as best as possible, and we're gonna make it as convenient as we can for everybody, but I guarantee you, it's gonna be a pain in the ass.
So just to clarify the rest of this, 'cause I think it's important people know.
Sure.
There is a deadline. I mean, we're supposed to be done, sorry.
We're supposed to be done by 3/1, so we've got 3 months pretty much to get 11 buildings roofed. 2 months, okay. So it's understood by the contractor and by us.
It takes about a week
It
per
should be,
roof.
it should be done. Oh, it takes a week?
A week.
About a week.
But you
Roughly, you said a week per building.
They agreed to re-sign us because we're progressing, no?
Yes,
But are we still bound by 3/1? Because
No.
that was the original.
no,
So we could go into April if we had to.
Oh, yeah.
yes, we want to avoid that,
Right.
because the longer the spalling scenario goes, the more damage we're incurring. I mean, 5, 7, and 13 have some critical problems that need to be addressed. But again, we need to finish one before we start the other. So it makes getting these roofs done in a timely fashion kind of important. So that's where our major concentration is. So Larry and I work on facilitating that. We're gonna have, hopefully, Chris, Tony, and Karen, and whomever on the board is gonna concentrate on getting the spalling contracts together, so we operationally can pick up right where they left off.
Okay, so all of this involves money, obviously, and this was not anticipated that we have to do all these roofs. And it was not anticipated that we had all this building of 500, go ahead.
We did anticipate that we'd be doing the roofs. The money is in our,
Right.
okay. We just didn't know that we had,
A
that
debt.
we didn't have a choice, but we did anticipate it.
Okay, I'm sorry, wrong word.
And the other thing is the timeline was shortened, because we thought we had the whole year of 25, and I know right now, in terms of reserves, you accumulate approximately 36,000 a month, which when you guys voted to put into pooled reserves, we could have shifted over. I don't have an exact calculation, but I think now in 25, we're going to accumulate approximately 42. So not only are we going to be getting that accumulative reserve amount to use, but we got to work closely with Ashley to make sure we stay within our reserve requirements. But it's important to know that everything we complete comes off of that reserve requirement list. So that number gets lower and lower. So even though we're spending an awful lot of money, we're required to have an awful lot less because we're in such good shape. But this brings us back around to the point you originally made about the insurance. If we accomplish this, we can get back to almost a Class A rating as a group to be insured. So not only would you not suffer the increase of the 15–20% from citizens, which is rough numbers between 87 and 104,000, and save $400 a month yourself, we can now go and shop the open underwriters market. And there are 4 new underwriters that were introduced to Florida in the last month that handle our class properties. So you may be looking at closer to a $200,000 difference if everyone's in compliance. We have our spalling contracts executed as well as these roofs finished. So there's a big reason why we're doing what we're doing. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in impact, not tens and twenties.
So it just, I'm sure I'm gonna have, I'll answer some questions other people have.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that, you know, to Maureen's question, and noting that Tom is not here today, Tom was asking for pay ahead, And would the community like to have a paper to understand why we're asking for pay ahead?
Well, I can
And how
sum
that
that
would
up.
work? All right, you can sum it up, that's fine.
In the past, we used, like, you just got the report, there's 1.3 million in reserves. We used to borrow our own money and pay our insurance bill, and then as we accumulated that 36 or 30, depending on the year, however much amount was that went into reserves, we'd pay ourselves back. And it really worked very well. The only reason we're not doing the same thing is because it became illegal in the state of Florida in June. There's a new statute that says you're not allowed to do that. So we got put in another predicament where not only do we need the reserves to do another function, which is what it was intended for, the routes, you're in a spot now where we can't use the procedure that you've used historically.
Right, and insurance is an operating expense, therefore it cannot be borrowed from reserves to pay the insurance bill.
Correct.
So that's the illegal piece of it.
Correct.
So we have a cash flow problem where the biggest bill we have all year is March 1st. And maybe if we get new insurance companies involved, we can have the bill due at the end of the year. But right now, we have to come up with that money, which we won't even have collected enough money from owners at $765 a month. So that was the thought where Tom was asking if there are people that might be able to pay up to 6 months in advance.
It would be a big help because you're gonna wind up paying interest on the balance, period.
Yeah.
We're no longer allowed to borrow our own money. And the subsequent thing is, just like your car insurance, if you pay it by the month, you pay more a year. Same scenario here, if we pay it the quarterly, the way we probably may have to do, depending on how forthcoming people are. But if people have the means to help contribute and follow Tom's plan, it's gonna lessen that amount of interest that's gonna be compiled in addition to our premium.
And it will not cost owners extra money. Some people are confused.
It will not cost anyone extra money, you'll just be paying it ahead of time in order for Tom to utilize it to pay down the initial amount. And unfortunately, we don't write the laws, but we do have to live by them.
Right. So on that note, if Ashley I didn't understand the whole piece. We could potentially pay 6 months in advance. We owe $91.80 in a year. We could pay half that bill, and then we could say, what is the thing that automatically auto pays? What do you call that?
The ACH.
The ACH, we can have that start again in July to charge us the $765 for the remainder of the year. So if you had the cash you could loan to the community and for yourself, for your own balance, it doesn't cost you a dime more unless you're worried about what you got invested and all that stuff.
Right, there is no additional cost for prepayment. All you're doing is helping the community alleviate the burden of the interest.
I think we beat this up enough. You had a question?
But that counted as 3 people's questions.
Yeah. Does anybody not understand the prepaid in advance concept? Okay.
Thank you. Deb King, 13105. I have just a few questions. First for Ashley, the collection process, it has begun and documentation has begun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think we have one with the attorney already. So
Okay.
one is already at the end of the line and then the others
Okay,
are.
because that's part of the issue with, well, as John says, there's rumors. Part of the rumors is that we're always being asked to help, and we don't mind helping, but it kind of, sticks in your craw that there are people that are just not doing anything. And then the other question was, what's the time frame for setting up the committees? Like, how long is that going to take before they actually get to work on each? I know you have quite a few volunteers. Is there any?
Yes, we're going to have another meeting after we finish the contract reviews to go back to that. But we were going to discuss that after this meeting, but I'm thinking within 3 weeks. Is that reasonable?
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Is it okay if I speak to Club on the River for just a few minutes?
Sure.
I like being in charge.
Oh, we know that. My name is Deb King, and I'm president of Club on the River this year and possibly next year if I survive it. And I just wanted to thank Jonathan Corda and Watson Management because they were helpful in us getting out a survey to the community. And the idea of the survey was to reach new owners and get new membership to the club. And we were successful. We got a few new people per Dana. And so we were happy with that. But if you do see the survey out there and you haven't answered it, possibly you can just shoot us back the survey. Also, for new owners and everything, I don't know if you're looking at, but Channel 64 on QXC has been updated and it will be continuously updated by Debbie Hartung. And we also have a bulletin board here in the clubhouse that has all of the activities and events, and that's updated all the time also. And lastly but not least, two things. We have enjoyment books for sale. It's a fundraiser for the club, and they are discounted for restaurants and, car washes. They're $35 a book. They have shrunk, but
Excuse me.
And not changed the price.
Do you mind if I comment on that quickly? For the last couple of years, I bought those, and I like tracking numbers and stuff like that. In the first 3 weeks I had that book, I saved $164.
Wow.
And this past year, because I learned how to use it better, I saved $200.
Wow.
A lot of people don't have
Yeah.
dry cleaning expenses and the odd stuff that's in
Yes.
there that I do, but it's a good charity, and it really helps everybody out. And I'll tell you what, there's another phase of it that we're using in a different area, a different group of people, where they started a little club where the folks who bought the book trade favorites. Where if you like going to Stella's restaurant, I'll give you that, and you give me the 2 dry cleaning
Yeah,
ones.
that's
So it's actually a much bigger, better thing for the community than you might think.
Thank you, Eric. And if anybody needs a book, they can see Karen Verdish or myself. And last, the Club on the River supplied the coffee and the refreshments today, so we hope everybody enjoyed them.
Any Zoomers? How do you tell?
Yeah, there's a hand up. You see the hand?
We know that's her mouth.
That's
her mouse.
That's the mouth.
That's your mouse?
Yeah, we don't have any.
I think check that chat down there. See, John.
All right, well, John figures that out. Questions? Deb? It's a short question, I'll repeat
It
it.
is. It's-
Tell me and I'll repeat it.
Okay, Deb Gatto, 11104. I'm so sorry, Chris, that you're leaving. But thank you for everything that you do, because according to Eric, you are the contract guru. You're the person that helps with.
I know a lot about contracts.
Was it Chris you were talking about? And you are talking about Chris continuing to review contracts. I've noticed in the past Zoom meetings, because we are just snowbirds, so a lot of times we just look at these meetings through Zoom. And I've noticed a couple of times that when you put out, you're only putting out proposals instead of RFQs, RFPs with specs. Could we, in the future, so it's easier to review your contracts, to put out, particularly like I think for the concrete restoration, there was an engineering report. So if there is an engineering report, could there be something where we have specs so we can put out, so we're comparing apples to apples? I know, like even perhaps with the land, and you might have done that.
As far as the concrete restoration goes, the engineer's report was used as a specification with pricing sheets to fill out. That's a little easier to compare, as opposed to calling 3 vendors and go, give me a proposal to re-roof this building. Then it's all over the map.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So could we perhaps, as River Club, as the board, from now on, when you're doing major proposals, if you're asking somebody to do $500 worth of work, you guys are certainly able to review those contracts, but we're talking big contracts here. And for us, we rely on you, and maybe it would be more convenient to do RFQs in the future.
That was a discussion Ashley and I actually had this morning, trying to update the site. We didn't get to John yet, but by the way, everybody talks about contributors, this and that. John happens to be someone who contributes an awful lot of his time and effort for us.
I appreciate that.
And I think it goes unrecognized. But we need to coordinate that because there's a number of issues I had with disclosure. So we're gonna try and get better at it. Ashley and I talked about that not 2 hours ago. And we were gonna bring John into that conversation after this meeting ends. But it's a very good point, and I think moving forward, other than like putting bids out, because that stops the process from happening in a proper fashion, but I think that everyone has the right to review what goes on. So we're gonna try and get better at that.
Can you clarify? I don't understand your last sentence, other than putting bids out. An RFP is a request for proposal for a specified amount of work. Similar to the last time they did the flat roofs, a company they just ran your air conditioning and electrical wire through the roof and not through a vein. Where if you have an RFP, it's documented what work should be done, and what quality products are used.
Correct, I think Chris is better than answer.
There's a difference, a nuance between an RFP and a bid. RFP, you're asking, and usually you use an RFP for professional services, engineer, architect.
Okay.
You put a specification out to bid for contractors to accomplish work. So it's a little different there. So we should be talking about a specification for bid.
I'll go along with that. Okay. Yeah, bid specification, but specifically requires, like, not just put the roof on, but have a vein. Whether it's going to be peel and stick underlayment or hot tar.
The specification is we tell them what we want. And they get back to us and say, I can give you what you want for this price, and then here's an opportunity for add alternates or deduct alternates in the bid. And, or did they find anything that they can't meet in the specifications? That all comes out. Instead of you standing on the roof, a guy goes, oh, by the way, I need $50,000 more because I can't do that the way it was designed.
Right.
So you get all that out of the way in the bid process.
But there are still variables such as rotted wood that you can't see. So things will come up and do come up, but there's only so much you can do in anticipation of any project. You can't see through a wall.
So what you do in that case, if you have like the plywood on the roofs, you don't know, so you get a unit price. So it's gonna cost me $100 per 4x8 sheet of plywood to replace it, no matter where we find it. So you're not paying the guy for plywood that you're not gonna use in one building, and then you go over to another building, he's charging you more. It's a unit price, $100, flat rate, no matter where they find it.
Mr. Ashley?
Douglas Ashley, 5208. I got a question, and again, I don't want to insinuate anything. Everybody's working very hard.
If the Zoom people can't hear it unless we use the microphone.
Microphone here, there's one right there.
Yeah, or you can go over there.
Hi, I'm Douglas Ashley, 5208. Hi, everybody. I have a question in terms of regards, we're talking several different projects. The one, obviously, is the first one, the roofs. And it was brought up in December in terms of bids or proposals or contracts. I guess we're at the contracts. What I like to know is what is on the websites for contract. Because I was on both of them the other day, River Club, the owner's old website, and I also was on the Watson Association's website. The one I found was on the Watson website, and it was an amendment. It didn't give too much specifications, and then there was the fine prints, the terms, and etc. And it insinuated, or not insinuated, it referred back to the original contract, which was, I think, 2 years ago, and it's not on the website. I mean, again, I don't want to be alarming them. I know it's somewhere, but can it be posted or whatever? I'd appreciate it.
I'll take that. There's a reason for that. You heard this nice young lady bring up before that there's changes we're trying to nail down. In fact, in trying to expedite this job as quickly as possible, part of that is the supply chain. So we found it, they should be able to hear through this one.
Well, they're saying they can't.
So, due to the time constraint, we're moving as fast as we can, but some things are not ironed out yet, so we don't want to produce a product that's going to have to be redacted again. And one of the issues is trim color, which we only got that sample here yesterday afternoon, because the product we wanted is not available in the bulk that we needed and in the time frame. The other thing is also the guarantee structure, which will change the numbers. And I had hoped to have that information Thursday. I guess it's my fault I wasn't able to be there. But we will have it on Monday. And part of the discussion Ashley and I had is that all completed contracts get expedited to the website as soon as possible by John. And the three of us had previously discussed this. But until we get it finalized, then reviewed by Chris, Karen, and Tony, whomever moving forward, we don't want to put up something that's going to be changed several times.
Okay, my misunderstanding. Can I ask you then the simple question, has it been, quote, finalized, correct? There's a lot of moving parts still.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. And there'll be, continue to be moving parts, even after it's posted, because again, we're going to start the job, and one building might need one piece of plywood, and the other one might need 15.
Exactly.
And we can't tell them.
Exactly.
So there's a contingency built into them for that reason.
Thank you.
Next, Dave. So, okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, please come to the microphone.
Dave Gatto, Building 11104. I know the horse is already out of the barn, but last night on Channel 5, the news, they talked about insurance, that the Florida Insurance Commission may be voting shortly on requiring metal roofs in the future.
Right.
So if we're spending $750,000 on asphalt right now, and in 5 years they come up with this, we have to change over, where does the money come from? Now, in the perfect world,
I think you heard that wrong.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
okay, correct me.
The legislature that's being proposed is that there are several requirements they're looking at, whether clay is going to be able to stay, but asphalt is going to be phased out.
Right, asphalt, I thought, right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so strictly on asphalt, they're not going to say you put a roof on 5 years ago, you've got to change it again today.
No,
They're going to
future.
grandfather in the change, so we're still going to be within our requirements. And right now, we don't have the funds to switch to metal, but as the product becomes more popular, supply and demand, you'll get more suppliers, the market will change. And it's my recommendation to whoever's, especially John, going to be working on a future budget plan, to anticipate metal roofs. That's definitely one of our considerations, but it's not that they can require you to
No.
have it 3 years from now.
No.
It'll be a grandfathered process.
Yeah.
It'll be on the next exchange.
I understand that. My question is, if they require this, and they give you even 5 or 10 years, let's say 10 years, to change over again, and we pulled all our money now, $750,000 towards the asphalt roofs, where do we come up with the money in 5 or 10 years? Will we have money to cover metal roofs in the future? Now, in a perfect world, you'll probably say yes. California is probably saying the same thing. In a perfect world, we would be safe out here, but it's not a perfect world, and there's fires, and it's dead. It's all ruined out there. If we have a hurricane next year, maybe 2 hurricanes, or maybe a year after that, where does the money come from? If we're using $750,000 now,
Comes from your insurance.
Comes from insurance.
the insurance will cover it all. Okay,
Not necessarily, I mean,
Deductible.
look at what you
Yeah,
got a
deduct-
deductible, and you got what we're up against now, where you had an open claim from several years ago we had to close in order to substantiate our new claim. Insurance matters are difficult, and anyone in business knows that. But there is a strong amount of pressure on our Florida representatives to stop acting so harshly towards our communities. There are bankrupt associations all over the state because of these new regulations that went through in June. And there are, in fact, right here in Martin County, there are several proactive groups that are lobbying to keep these changes from going forward, because a lot of them are unfair. There was one multiple-story building that's caused this hardship for communities across the state. So the legislature is bringing up these options, and it's my recommendation that in a budgetary process, we plan to switch to metal roofs in the future, because we know that's coming. But at this point in time, we're not prepared to do that. We don't have the funds to do that. And we're not going to act on a theoretical thing that may or may not happen, because there are negotiations in the legislature about these specific things. But I would tend to agree with you that it will be necessary in the future for us to transition them out.
The remaining roofs that you're not doing now, are you planning for those to be metal?
That's not part of our contingency right now. If that would come up in our budgetary process, which happens, John starts it earlier and earlier every year, trying to get it, but it depends also on the premiums. Right.
No, didn't we get a estimate of what our metal roof and what the premium would be over the tar roof to a metal roof at this point? We almost double the cost.
Yeah, it was unattainable at this time, but your point is well taken. It should be considered for the future, and that's one of the items we wanted to discuss in the upcoming 26 budget, because it should be adjusted from there. The same way your reserves get adjusted down for the requirement, we should be anticipating 15 years, 20 years from now having it convert and having more money in that area allocated.
What is our deductible with the insurance company? Roughly.
I don't have it. And it depends on the incident. That's going to be variable. Hurricane deductible is one thing, straight line wind is another. Depends on the damage caused, hail is another.
We could keep the chatter down.
I don't have the specific numbers on those.
Okay.
Normally Tom keeps those for us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But they are all good considerations, which, again, that's why the committees are important. You guys need to discuss this in the upcoming budget for 26. Because those reserves need to be accumulated. If you do it slowly, you avoid a big hit 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Anybody else? You had 10 tries, John. Give someone else.
This is all related.
No, I know. Anybody else have questions for now? Okay, John. I got to pick up. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, John Hasper. Come on up. Come on down, like the price is right.
Give him hell, John.
Let the old man go by. Yeah, man.
Turn on the microphone.
John Hasper, Building 10, 110. Compared to what you guys have been talking about, this is not a really significant thing. But there's been a car parked on our premises since 2022. And we got plant life growing underneath, breaking up the macadam. We have, the tires are starting to go flat. In 2023, Eric was good enough to go over, knock on the guy's door and say, hey, listen, you got to register this car, and that's all he could do. Now, in 2024, the plates expired again in
They're good
August.
for 25, I checked. It's a
No.
Chrysler 500?
No.
Oh, it's a different vehicle.
You're jumping on it. You're not supposed to be dead.
John, you...
No, but
May I speak 1 second?
Well, just so that people understand.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
We've addressed it already through Watson. She sent the notifications out, and it's time that vehicle gets towed, as far as I'm concerned, because we've extended ourselves as much as humanly possible for the last 2 years. And Watson's in the process of following up on that, but we have to take the legal process.
I understand, but he's destroying the macadam under his car. There's debris under his car. Now, the thing hasn't been registered since the end of August. Now, we're in January. Can't you put a hook under that son of a bitch?
Being from New York, I totally understand you, and I'm not insulted by your language whatsoever, because that is my sentiment exactly. But I am restricted by our statutes, so I'm gonna hand that over there.
Me and Frankie Watson signed the thing into the board, and we never got a reply.
In New York, a guy lives in car like that, 10 guys come pick it up and it disappears. Would have been taken care of a long time ago.
We don't have those boards here.
I think on Monday, we should be able to go over to the car with a tow sticker. Give them 24 hours notice with the sticker placed on the vehicle, and then if it's not registered within that 24 hours, get rid of it.
And the question also is moving. It's been inoperable for years, so it never moves from that spot, so we can't even maintenance there.
Yeah.
There's several issues. There's
So it's gotta be registered and operable.
But there are several issues we're working on in terms of that individual.
Yeah, but I'm sure some snowbirds leave their car here, and that's understandable, you know, and then they come down and have their car. But for somebody to store for 2 years, 3 years, it's
We understand.
3 years.
We got it.
All right, thanks.
We've been on it, John. We're just limited as to what. That's good.
Okay, John Corder.
Getting the neighbors all upset, John.
So this goes back to what Eric was explaining, and reserves between metal roofs, asphalt roofs. When we recalculate the reserves are calculated on life expectancy. So if a roof costs $100,000, and I don't know, that's what I wanted to clarify. Are we allowed 15 or 20 years now for a roof before insurance companies force you to replace it?
Okay, they're kind of sticky on that one too. The requirement is 20, but they have an option to cause a review after 15 to observe the current condition. Whereas I guess it was Ken, Tony, I'm not sure, you guys, I'm not sure who did it. They did a review here, and it was determined by an independent review that these roofs were gonna be gone by the end of 2025, and the other ones had 7 more years left. Right now, the way the statute is, they can cause you to review after 15 years. That does not mean cause you to replace. So that's why we chose to go with a little better product that Lindsay researched as well as the rest of us. So hopefully we can get 20 years out of the ones we're doing now. And that would be my recommendation for the next ones coming up. Because the way I understand the legislation package is getting put together, they're doing it based on a 20-year replacement with the option of a 15-year review. It's a balancing act that the legislature, the insurance companies, and the communities are playing.
Okay, so when we recalculate reserves for next year,
In the budget process.
We will have both a metal roof and we will have an asphalt roof, just for comparison's sake. And so the community knows if the roof costs us $200,000 and we're going 20 years, we are required to fund our reserves with 1/20th of the cost of replacement. And through diligence over the years, you need to increase for inflation and all that over the time. But I just want to make the point that it might be 20 years, but we have 20 years to collect the money to replace it with a metal roof.
That would be my recommendation. I can't guarantee it's gonna be 20 years, because I don't know if we're gonna have a hailstorm 14 years from now, and in a 15-year review, there's a problem. We can't predict the future, but what we can do is plan accordingly, and what we've anticipated doing for you in the budget process is getting a metal roof per square number, and a tile roof per square number. You guys can merge them together and do your 20-year projection based on, and my recommendation would be replacing with metal.
Right, so we will need a group of people to decide, are we going with something like an Erie roof, or are we going like Beacon? Because that's the squiggly, that's the cheapest metal roof you can get, but if we had an incident, we had damage done again, and we had to redo a building, it would make sense that we're already prepared to put a metal roof on this color, this type of roof, and start that process.
That would make sense.
Right?
Yep, that does make sense, and what I can do to help you is provide you with per square numbers, but that's kind of my limitation. I can't change the legislation, I don't know what the inspection requirement is until they release it, and right now it's 15 years.
Okay, and there will be discussion on the 5 remaining roofs, whether when we do those, whether
Do you
they
want to
be
switch
metal.
those to metal and then live with 2 different roof colors for 10 years?
I just wanted to make sure people know that that will be consideration, it's not.
I would think that
behind
that's
one
a
door.
very smart way to go about it. This way, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Why switch the
Who the hell
whole
wants to eat one of
facility?
them?
Why switch the whole facility at the maximum expense when you could go incrementally and have much less impact on the community? I would recommend that.
But just keep in mind, we're at $790 a month now?
65.
Well,
It's coming.
5
I know
million
it's
down
coming.
the road, you're gonna be paying $1,000 a month.
Oh, yeah.
So you gotta, and that's gonna come out in the budget process to show you about what the HOA will increase if we wanna go to metal roofs, which sounds like we're not gonna have a choice. We're gonna have to go to a different roof other than shingle.
We have a question.
Yeah, Richard did.
On a lighter note. All this talk about roofs. I'm Richard, building 4203. Grass. This is
It's
just
not legal in
grass.
Florida, they tried, but it's not.
I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we have a cinch bug problem, it seems like. I'm up on the 2nd floor, I look over the big walkway right across here, and we have a landscaping company, they do spray. Are they spraying for bugs?
Actually, I
Because-
believe you called us, didn't you?
They don't do a good job.
When you guys called us, you're kind of the best folks around you.
Last meeting I mentioned it.
You've been
but-
using them for a number of years, and I think maybe I picked up the phone when you called. Karen had already had them out here. And I made sure.
But they don't, I mean, they should be, their spray should keep these things, every year they're getting worse and worse and worse. They go through a season, we're in the, and I've talked to the guy, I've stopped him several times and I said, hey, this is a cinch bug problem. He says, no, it's a watering problem. Like, this is Florida, okay? It rains every day. It's not a watering problem, okay? The water problem we have is there's too much water. So,
I'm gonna refer you to sign up for the committee, and in a couple of weeks, we can address it.
well, I've tried, but I'm just
It's in
saying,
the office?
it's bad. Have you seen it?
I have.
It's bad. I mean, it's just eating away. So,
we
we're
had-
paying for these services. I just want to make
We
sure.
called to have the service done the day after the last meeting when you mentioned it.
They did spray about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, they
That
spray,
was the
but
second time.
what are they spraying? Do we know what they're spraying? Are they spraying for cinch? I've been in Florida my whole life, okay? I'm not a snowbird. I've been in Florida my whole life. This talk about metal roofs, I'm not all sold on metal roofs. I've had metal roofs, I've had regular roofs, I've been everywhere. Metal roofs are noisy when it rains.
Sure.
Metal roofs are a problem with phones. Metal roofs do not last longer than asphalt roofs. And insurance, so all this stuff, hopefully they don't change the regulation, but metal roofs are not the end all, guys.
So the
They're not.
idea is to be prepared if they do
It
change.
is, I agree.
Rather
Being
be
prepared.
prepared than unprepared.
Exactly, but I'm just saying, metal roofs are not any better than asphalt roofs. Don't let anybody tell you they are, because they're
Well,
not.
there's also a maintenance issue.
They're a maintenance
They
issue.
have to be sealed.
When they do blow off, the entire roof blows off, not just some of the shingles. That's the problems with metal roofs.
Yes.
So when a metal roof goes, it goes. Plus all the other problems. If you're on a 2nd floor and you have a metal roof, you're not sleeping at night on a rainy night.
And that's
So-
5 months a year here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And if I live here year round, I live here during rainy season. I don't want a metal roof. Just telling you. But my main question was the grass. So yes, I've signed up for any committee you want to put me on, but the grass is important to me because,
And right now, we're using, what's it, Spectrum?
we're paying for it. But
SPAT.
if you don't,
Which is the same company we've had for years.
exactly, and it's
we
been a
did-
problem getting worse for years. So
Okay.
it might be just managing that company is all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
It has nothing to do with, they pretend like they spray, but they don't always spray for bugs. They just spray fertilizer and make it green. And so it looks good for a couple weeks
Your
and then
help
it goes
with
bad again.
overseeing that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, well, I'm available. I signed up.
We did call, we had them come, I don't know the specific differences in those chemicals to make a proper analysis of that. So any additional oversight is definitely welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Ashley.
Good job. Thank you, Doug. I don't like this.
I wish I could be a volunteer. I'll share some ideas real quickly with you. The lawn maintenance group, I don't criticize. I know I used to do, I won't tell you my history, everybody knows it.
Thank God.
I'll share out of respect though that people have been gratified by knowing something a little bit more, and this is what I want to share with you. I was told by a lot of major companies the environment's dynamic, and so eventually I became a master gardener. And what I'm going to recommend, questions, the University of Florida has an excellent website. They have an agricultural group, and that's what the master gardeners are. They're by county. You have one in Martin County, St. Lucie County, etc. When I saw it, it's worse in my neighborhood. I'm in 5 at the end. It's called Brown Patch. John Gill is very good. We went through this last year. It's a matter of seasonal timing. When it gets colder and it gets the dew point, et cetera, we need to kind of observe what's going on. These sprayers don't come out on a weekly basis to look at your grass. It's either a maintenance issue with the lawn service, say, hey, we got a spot here, you better tell somebody, or it's the office, and I don't want to insinuate the quote office, but even us as a neighbor, when you see something going on in your lawn, report it. That's what I did, and they came out immediately the next day. So, and they're calling it Brown Patch, the spray service, and they're also going to say it's going to take 2 or 3 applications. So I hope that helps a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm an expert on grass. The other idea I want to share with you is the roofs. And when we're talking budgets at this point, just to give you an idea, I want to share with you, when I was at my office, we have home inspectors come all the time. And one that I thought was very interesting, and I'm not sure 100% of the qualifications, but he seemed like he had a lot of information. He said that there's a group standards that the underwriters, this is important, this is your insurance, but when you're selling the loans, etc., they have a life expectancy. And so it's been changing. That's where we've been caught for several years now, is the changes by the the insurance companies and the lenders. And what they said, this man, and it was interesting, they call it the FABS standards. That's what, it's just like when you have shutters. There's a group that does the tests and they estimate the wind velocities, et cetera, et cetera. So when you get shutters, they have to be approved, and you'll see those new stickers. So this group's doing the same thing. So you'd understand what they're saying, that this is the current ones they were saying, was they've changed. They say tile 25 years, asphalt 3-tab 15 years, architectural asphalt 18 years, flat roof maybe 12, and metal 25 to 30. But I'd like to suggest that who's ever working on these committees, maybe they want to look at this FABS, and if somebody wants to get the name of the inspector, he's very friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Doug, if you can, just leave his information with the office so we can forward it? Yeah. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Good job, Doug.
Going once, going twice. So, I'd like to hear a motion from the floor to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
But before we adjourn, I want to thank Ashley for coming today. It's a Saturday. And especially Genesis, who's celebrating her 21st birthday today. So can we sing happy birthday to Genesis? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Genesis. Happy birthday to you.
The meeting is now adjourned.
The board will be holding a brief organizational meeting to appoint Larry to the board and also to select officer positions for anybody that would like to stick around for that portion of the